Ethan Carter was not running from life. He was just tired of noise. For 10 years, he had lived in the city, surrounded by traffic, screens, and people who never looked at the sky. When his job went remote, he made a simple choice. He bought a small, old house far from everything. The price was too low, but Ethan did not ask many questions. The papers were clean. The house was real. And silence, he believed, was priceless. The house stood near a forest, close to a slow river that cut through the land like a silver line. Tall trees surrounded it, and the wind moved through their leaves like quiet whispers. The locals in the nearby town acted strange when he mentioned the place. "You bought that house?" one old man asked, his face tight. "Yes," Ethan replied. "It's quiet. That's all I need." The man nodded slowly, as if Ethan had already stepped past a point of no return. Ethan arrived just before sunset. The house was wooden, old but strong. The air felt clean. Too clean. No cars. No distant sirens. Only birds, wind, and the soft sound of the river far away. That first night, Ethan slept better than he had in years. But silence has layers. On the second night, he heard something new. It was not loud. It was not even clear. A low humming sound floated through the air, like a deep note held for too long. Ethan sat up in bed and listened. The sound came from the forest. Or maybe from the river. It stopped as suddenly as it began. Just nature, he told himself. The next few days passed quietly. Ethan unpacked boxes, cleaned rooms, and fixed small things around the house. Every evening, he walked closer to the river. He did not know why. Something pulled him there, gentle but strong. On the 5th evening, the sky turned orange and purple as the sun fell behind the trees. Ethan followed a narrow path through the forest. The sound of water grew louder. When he reached the river, he stopped. The river was wider than he expected. The water moved slowly, glowing faintly as the last light touched it. Mist rose from the surface, thin and pale. Then Ethan saw them. 3 figures stood in the water. They were tall, taller than any human. Their shapes were almost human, but not quite. Their skin reflected the fading light like polished stone mixed with metal. Soft lines of blue light moved under their skin, slow and calm. Like breathing stars, they were not swimming. They were standing still, hands lowered into the water, as if the river itself was washing something away from them. The water around their hands shimmered, reacting to their touch. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His mind searched for answers, costumes, reflections, tricks of light, but none fit. The figures moved with purpose. With awareness, one of them lifted its head. Its eyes were not white or black. They glowed softly, like distant moons. The being turned slowly, not in surprise, but with calm certainty. It looked directly at Ethan. Time froze. Ethan's legs refused to move. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. The forest seemed to hold its breath with him. The humming sound returned, deeper now, stronger, vibrating through the ground. The other 2 figures turned as well. They did not speak. Their mouths did not move. Yet Ethan felt something press gently against his mind, like a hand on glass. You are early. A calm thought echoed, not in sound, but in meaning. Ethan stumbled back, breaking a branch under his foot. The sound snapped the moment, like a thread pulled too. Hard. The beings did not chase him. They simply watched. Ethan ran. He did not stop until he reached his house. He locked the door, closed the windows, and sat on the floor, his back against the wall, breathing fast. Hours passed. The night deepened. No footsteps came. No lights flashed. No voices followed him. Only silence. But now, silence felt different. It felt like something was waiting. Ethan did not sleep that night. as the first light of morning touched the forest. Ethan looked toward the river through his window. Nothing seemed strange. Birds returned. The world looked normal again. But Ethan knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was not alone. And the house he bought was never just a house. Morning did not bring peace. Ethan stood near the window, watching the forest like it might suddenly move closer to the house. Sunlight touched the trees, but it felt weak, as if the forest refused to fully wake up. Birds sang, yet their songs ended too quickly, leaving strange gaps of silence between sounds. He told himself it was fear playing tricks on his mind. Still, he did not go near the river that day. Ethan tried to work, but his eyes kept drifting to the forest line. Every shadow felt too sharp. Every sound felt delayed. By evening, the humming returned. This time, it was clearer, deeper. It vibrated through the walls of the house, not loud enough to hurt, but strong enough to be felt in the bones. Ethan checked his phone. No signal. The humming stopped. Then came a soft knock. Ethan froze. The knock was gentle, careful, like someone who did not want to scare him. He moved slowly toward the door, his heart beating hard in his chest. He placed his hand on the handle, but did not open it. "Who is it?" he asked, his voice dry. No answer. Then, without sound, without breath, a thought formed in his mind. Human Ethan. "We mean no harm." Ethan stepped back as if struck. The voice was calm, emotionless, not male, not female, and not spoken aloud. "You? You can't be here," Ethan whispered. "You saw what was not meant to be seen," the thought replied. "That creates imbalance." The door did not open. The voice did not push. It waited. Slowly, Ethan unlocked the door and pulled it open. One of the beings stood outside, up close. It was even more unreal. Its skin shifted color with the light, like metal underwater. Thin lines of blue energy moved beneath the surface, steady and controlled. Its eyes glowed softly, not cold, not warm, simply aware. The being lowered its head slightly. "We are observers," it said inside his mind. "We hide where rivers still remember the old paths." Ethan swallowed. "What were you doing in the river?" The being paused, as if choosing words carefully. "We were cleansing exposure," it replied. "Your world affects us more than you know." Ethan glanced past it. Two more figures stood near the trees, barely visible, watching silently. He felt no anger from them, no threat, only caution. "You're aliens," Ethan said. "That word is yours," the being answered. "We are neighbors." That made his stomach tighten. The being stepped back, giving him space. "We do not enter human homes unless invited," it said. "But the river is no longer safe. Others have noticed the disturbance." Ethan felt cold. "Others?" The air around the being seemed to darken. "Not all watchers protect," it said. "Some harvest. Some conquer." The humming returned, stronger now. The ground beneath Ethan's feet trembled lightly. Far away, deep in the forest, something answered. A pulse, not sound, not light, a pressure. The being turned sharply toward the trees. "They are closer than predicted," it said. Suddenly, the forest felt wrong. Trees leaned at strange angles. Shadows stretched where they should not. The river's gentle sound grew louder, almost restless. "What do you need from me?" Ethan asked, surprising himself. The being looked back at him. "Humans are unpredictable," it said. "That is why you are dangerous, and why you are valuable." Ethan let out a weak laugh. "I'm just one guy." The being's eyes brightened slightly. "So was the first spark," it replied. A sharp sound cracked through the forest. Not thunder, not a gun. Something cleaner, more precise. The two beings near the trees moved instantly, their forms blurring as energy wrapped around them like living armor. You must stay inside tonight, the being told Ethan. Lock your doors. Do not approach the river. What happens if I do? Ethan asked. The being hesitated. Then you will be seen, it said. And once seen, your world cannot be unseen. The being stepped back, its form fading into the air like mist pulled apart by wind. The other two vanished with it, leaving only the forest and the sound of the river behind. Ethan closed the door slowly. That night, lights moved beneath the surface of the river. And far above Earth. Something ancient adjusted its course. Ethan did not sleep. He sat at the kitchen table, a glass of water untouched in front of him, listening to the house breathe. Wood creaked softly as the night cooled. Outside, the forest stood still, as if it was waiting for a signal. Just before dawn, the humming returned. It was weaker than before, but clearer. It felt organized, like a pattern repeating itself. Ethan stood and moved toward the window. The river was hidden by trees, but the light beneath the leaves pulsed slowly, blue and calm. Against his better judgment, Ethan put on his jacket and stepped outside. The air was cold and sharp. Mist rolled low along the ground. As he walked toward the river, the path seemed easier to follow than before, as if it wanted him there. When he reached the riverbank, the three beings were already waiting. They stood on dry land this time. No glow came from the water. The river flowed quietly, dark and ordinary, as if nothing strange had ever touched it. You said others were coming, Ethan said, keeping his voice steady. Why tell me at all? One of the beings stepped forward. It was the same one who had spoken to him before. Because you live closest to the anchor, it replied. Anchor? The being raised one long hand and pointed toward the river. This river is older than your maps, it said. Beneath it rests a stabilizer, a device placed long before your species named this world. Ethan frowned. Placed by who? By us, the being answered. And by those who came before us. The air felt heavier. Ethan felt like he was standing above something vast and buried. The stabilizer hides Earth, he said slowly. The being's eyes brightened. It bends attention, it explained. It makes this world easy to overlook. Dangerous worlds do not need to be loud. Ethan looked at the calm water. Then why now? Why did I see you? The being was silent for a moment. Because the stabilizer is weakening, it said. Human activity has changed the river's flow. Technology has made your world louder. The second being stepped forward. And because humans are changing, it added. Faster than expected. A low vibration passed through the ground. Ethan felt it in his chest. What happens if it fails? He asked. The third being answered. Earth becomes visible. The word felt heavy. Visible to who? Ethan already knew the answer. Those who hunt potential, the first being said. They do not fear strength. They fear growth. Ethan laughed quietly, more from shock than humor. You're saying aliens are afraid of humans? The being tilted its head. Not afraid, it said. Concerned. It showed him something then. Not with images. Not with sound. With feeling. Ethan felt countless worlds silent, empty, stripped clean. He felt civilizations that grew too fast and were erased before they could choose their own future. He felt watchers who decided which worlds lived quietly and which were removed. Then he felt Earth. Messy, loud, emotional, violent, creative, stubborn. Unfinished. Humans adapt, the being said. You break rules without asking permission. Ethan felt his hands shaking. So why live next to me? He asked. Why hide here? Because humans do not look down rivers, the being replied. You build over them. You forget them. A sharp pulse hit the air. All three beings turned toward the forest. They are scanning. The second one said. Small probes. Testing awareness. Ethan's heart raced. Can you stop them? Not directly, The first being said. Intervention draws attention. Then what can I do? Ethan asked. The being looked at him carefully. You can observe, it said. You can notice what humans ignore. And when the moment comes, you can choose. Choose what? The being stepped closer. Whether Earth hides, it said, or speaks. A distant light flickered high above the trees. Too high to be a plane. Too slow to be a satellite dot, the river rippled once, though no wind touched it. We will remain nearby, the being said. But soon, secrecy will no longer be enough. The three beings stepped back toward the forest. As they faded, the first one sent one final thought. Human Ethan, you did not buy this house by accident. The forest went quiet. The river flowed on. But now, Ethan understood Earth was not ignored, that it was restrained, and something out there had begun to notice the chains slipping. The sky changed first. Ethan noticed it on the third morning after the truth was revealed. The blue looked thinner, stretched somehow, like a surface pulled too tight. Clouds moved in straight lines instead of drifting. Birds flew lower than usual, nervous, changing direction, for no clear reason. News from the outside world arrived slowly. Ethan's phone signal returned for short moments, just enough to bring fragments, satellites losing contact, navigation systems failing, unexplained light, patterns above oceans and forests. The world was starting to notice. That evening, the humming returned, stronger than ever. The ground near the river vibrated in a steady rhythm. Ethan stood on his porch, watching the trees sway without wind. Then the air folded. That was the only way his mind could explain it. Three shapes formed near the riverbank, clearer than before. The beings no longer hid their glow. Blue light flowed openly beneath their skin, pulsing faster, sharper. The observers had been observed. The first being said inside Ethan's mind. Ethan walked toward them. Fear was still there, but something else had grown beside it. Purpose. They found the stabilizer, he said. They have confirmed its presence, the being replied. They are sending scouts. A deep shadow passed over the forest. Ethan looked up. For a moment, the stars shifted. Something massive moved behind the sky, invisible but undeniable. Space itself seemed to bend around it. Ethan's knees weakened. That's a ship. Yes, the being said. A listening vessel. The river reacted. The water glowed bright blue, swirling in slow spirals. The stabilizer beneath it was waking up. We must reduce its output, the second being said, or it will reveal Earth fully. But you said intervention draws attention, Ethan replied. The third being looked at him. Human intervention does not follow our patterns. It said. The being reached out and placed its glowing hand just above Ethan's chest. It did not touch him, but he felt warmth spread through his body. You are part of the system now, it said. The stabilizer responds to intent. Ethan shook his head. I don't understand. I'm not special. No human is, the first being said. That is what makes you dangerous. The forest trembled again. This time, it was closer. A sharp line of white light cut through the trees in the distance. Something small and fast moved between branches, scanning, searching. Scout drones, the second being said. They do not expect resistance. Ethan clenched his fists. What happens if they confirm life? The beings answered together. Harvest. The word hit harder than any threat. Ethan looked at the river, at the quiet water that hid something ancient and powerful, at the house behind him, small and human and fragile. What do I do? He asked. The first being stepped back and lowered itself. It knelt. The other two followed. Ethan stared in shock. We cannot decide for Earth, the being said. Only humans can. The scout drone burst through the trees. It was small, sharp and silver, floating silently above the river. Its surface shifted as it analyzed everything: water, air, Energy. Life. The river brightened. The drone paused. Ethan felt a pressure in his chest, like a question waiting for an answer. He did not think about strategy, or fear, or survival. He thought about noise, about cities, about humans arguing, creating, failing, trying again. He stepped forward. Ethan placed his hand into the river. The water felt warm. The stabilizer responded. The river's glow shifted, not brighter, but deeper. The energy folded inward instead of outward. The drone tilted, confused. Data it expected was missing. The forest went still. The drone hesitated. Then it turned and shot upward, vanishing into the sky. Silence followed. The beings rose slowly. You reduced the signal, the second being said. Ethan pulled his hand from the water, shaking. I didn't hide Earth. No, the first being replied. You taught it how to whisper. High above, the shadow in the sky adjusted its course. It did not leave, but it listened. And for the first time, Earth was not just being watched. It was responding. The night after the drone fled was the quietest Ethan had ever known. No humming. No vibration. No movement in the trees. The silence was not empty. It was heavy, like a held breath. Ethan sat by the river with the three beings. The water no longer glowed, yet it felt alive, aware in a way it had not before. The stabilizer beneath, it was no longer acting alone. It was listening. They will not retreat, the first being said. They will test again. Ethan rubbed his hands together. Then why did the drone leave? The second being looked at him. Because it could not define you, it said. Ethan frowned. I'm human. That's not hard. The being's eyes pulsed softly. That is the problem, it replied. The sky above them shimmered faintly, like heat rising from stone. Somewhere far beyond sight, the listening vessel adjusted its sensors again. Ethan felt it. Not fear, not pain, but attention. They're trying to understand us, he said. They are trying to predict you. The third being answered. The river rippled once. The first being reached down and touched the water. Images flowed outward, forming shapes in the air, simple, clear. Slow. Worlds with perfect order. Civilizations that followed strict paths. Species that expanded carefully, never breaking patterns. Then Earth appeared, messy, loud, broken, rebuilt. The galaxy prefers stability, the being said. Humans prefer possibility. Ethan watched images of human history fire, stolen from lightning, machines built from scraps, signals sent blindly into space without knowing who might answer. You think that makes us dangerous? Ethan said. We know it does. The being replied. A low pulse moved through the ground. Not an attack. A scan. Deeper than before. They're probing again, Ethan said. Yes, the second being replied. But not with machines. The air felt tighter. Ethan's thoughts felt louder, sharper. He realized with a chill that the listening vessel was not scanning energy. It was scanning behavior. They're watching how we react, Ethan said. The first being nodded. They test for fear, it said. For submission. For silence. Ethan looked at the dark forest, at the quiet house behind him. What happens if we stay quiet? He asked. The beings did not answer right away. Finally, the third one spoke. Then Earth becomes a resource. Ethan exhaled slowly. Humans had never been good at staying quiet. He stood up. I want to send something. Back, he said. The beings turned toward him at once. Any signal risks exposure. The second being warned. I don't want to send a message, Ethan said. I want to send a reaction. The first being studied him closely. Explain. Ethan thought for a moment. NT. His words came slow, careful. They expect patterns, logic, clean responses, he said. That's how they think. The being's eyes brightened slightly. And humans? Ethan gave a small, nervous smile. We respond emotionally, creatively, sometimes stupidly. He walked to the river and knelt. The water reflected his face, tired, afraid, determined. "What if Earth doesn't hide?" he said, "but also doesn't attack?" The humming returned, faint and curious. The stabilizer beneath the river began to shift again. Not outward, not inward, but sideways, bending probability instead of energy. The first being inhaled sharply. "This is inefficient," it said. "That's humans," Ethan replied. High above, the sky flickered. The listening vessel sent a stronger scan. This time, Earth answered dot, not with power dot, with noise. Human satellites. Old and new, powered systems that should have failed. Random signals bounced into space music, static, half-finished code, fragments of human broadcasts. Not coordinated. Not clean dot confusing, dot the vessel pause dot, they cannot classify this. The second being said dot the scan slowed. Ethan felt it, then a shift. Not retreat, not reconsideration, not the galaxy feared weapons. Shields, fleets, but humans? Humans were unpredictable. They built without permission. They responded without agreement. They broke systems by accident, and then used the broken parts to build something new. The listening vessel adjusted its position dot further away. They are uncertain, the first being said. Uncertainty is rare dot. Ethan sat back on the riverbank, exhausted. So what happens now? The beings looked at the stars dot now. The third being said, they debate. The forest relaxed slightly. Birds returned to the trees. The river flowed steady and calm, but far above Earth. Ancient minds struggled with a simple truth. Humans could not be. Controlled, because humans could not be. Predicted, and that frightened the stars more than any weapon ever. Could dot the debate did not last? Long dot Ethan felt the change before he saw it. The air tightened, like a storm about to break. The stars above the forest no longer held steady. They shifted in sharp, unnatural movements. The listening vessel had made its choice. The humming returned not soft, not curious, but loud and urgent. The river shook, waves forming without wind. The stabilizer beneath it surged, struggling to balance concealment and response. They have decided, the first being said. Earth will be tested. Ethan's heart sank. Tested how? The second being looked up at the sky dot with force. A tear opened above the forest, not a crack, not a hole, a wound, space bent inward, folding light and shadow together. Through it emerged shapes angular, sharp, wrong. Smaller ships poured through the opening like metal insects. Silent and fast dot Ethan staggered back. That's an invasion. No, the third being corrected. It is a demonstration. The first ship fired. A beam of white energy struck a distant hill. Trees vanished in a flash of light. The ground melted, then hardened into glass. Ethan's hands trembled. They're showing us what they can do. Yes, the first being said. They believe fear creates compliance. The river exploded with blue light. The stabilizer could not stay quiet anymore. Across the planet, systems woke up. Old satellites powered on. Deep-sea sensors activated. Hidden structures beneath mountains and oceans stirred things humans had built, forgotten, and never fully understood. Ethan stared in shock. You said humans didn't know. He said, you did not, the second being replied. But you prepared. Another beam fired. This time it never reached the ground. The air itself bent. The beams scattered, breaking into harmless light. Ethan felt a deep vibration, human-made, familiar, stubborn. Earth was answering. Human defense networks, created for wars between themselves, adjusted to a new target. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but fast. Missiles launched and changed course mid-flight. Lasers misfired, corrected, fired again. Old systems talked to new ones in ways. They were never designed to dot it. Was chaos dotted? Was human? The alien ships hesitated. They did not expect resistance. The third being said, one of the smaller. Ships fired again. A human satellite rammed it, not a weapon. Piece of space junked out the ship exploded. Ethan let out a breath. He did not realize he was holding. The forest shook as shock waves passed overhead. The sky filled with light, streaks of fire, fragments burning as they fell harmlessly into the atmosphere. They're retreating, Ethan said. They are adapting, the first being corrected. But so are you. Above Earth, the tier in space widened. Something larger began to emerge. The flagship dot dwarfed everything before it, a dark shape that bent gravity around it. Its presence alone silenced the battlefield dot. This is the deciding moment, the second being said. If Earth submits now, it will never be free. The stabilizer beneath the river surged violently. The water rose, forming a spinning column of light. Ethan felt heat, pressure, and something else. Choice. He stepped into the river again. I don't know how to fight a starship, he said. The first being stood beside him. You do not fight like them, it said. You fight like humans. Ethan closed his eyes. He thought of every human signal ever sent into space. Every attempt to be heard. Every failure. Every try. Let them hear us, he said. The stabilizer changed. It stopped hiding. It amplified. A pulse raced across the planet, not destructive, not violent, but undeniable. A message without words. We are here. We adapt. We do not kneel. The flagship paused. For the first time. Fear moved through the alien fleet. Earth had not whispered. Earth had spoken. The stars went still. After the pulse, after Earth's message echoed into the dark, there was no attack, no beam, no movement. The massive flagship hung above the planet, silent and watching. Ethan stood in the river, water around his legs, the blue light slowly fading. The stabilizer beneath the surface settled into a calm, steady rhythm, no longer hiding, no longer shouting. It was balanced. They heard us, Ethan said quietly. Yes, the first being replied. And now they must decide how to respond. Minutes passed. Then more. Across the world, humans watched the sky. Cities fell silent. Wars paused. Even the loudest places on Earth felt the same moment of stillness. The flagship shifted. Slowly. Carefully, it moved backward. One by one. The smaller ships followed, slipping back through the wound in space. The tier closed, leaving only stars behind, unchanged, distant, quiet. Ethan exhaled deeply. They're leaving, he said. They are withdrawing, the second being said. They did not expect unity through chaos. The forest relaxed. Birds returned. The river flowed as it always had, clear and calm. But nothing was the same. The first being turned to Ethan. Earth is no longer hidden, it said. And it no longer needs to be. What happens now? Ethan asked. The being looked toward the sky. Now the galaxy reassesses, it said. Earth has been marked. Ethan's stomach tightened. Marked as what? The being paused, then answered. As a world that cannot be taken quietly. The three beings stepped back toward the trees. Their glow dimmed, becoming softer, more human. Our role here is finished, the second being said. You no longer need guardians. Ethan felt an unexpected weight in his chest. You're leaving. We were never meant to stay, the third being replied. Observers must step away once a world chooses its voice. The first being said one final thought, warm and steady. You did not speak for Earth alone, it said. You spoke for what humans become when watched. The beings faded into the forest, their light dissolving into the shadows. Silence returned. This time, it felt earned. Days passed. The world did not end. Instead, it changed. Governments admitted contact. Scientists confirmed signals. Humanity argued, feared, celebrated, and planned sometimes all at once. But no, fleet returned. The stars remained distant. Ethan stayed in the house by the river. The locals no longer avoided him. They asked questions instead. The river became a protected place, quietly guarded, carefully respected. Sometimes, at night, Ethan sat on his porch and looked at the sky. He felt small, but not powerless. He remembered the words, spoken without sound. Humans are unpredictable. That was no longer a weakness. It was a warning. Far across the galaxy. Records were updated. Maps redrawn. Notes added beside one small. Blue world. Earth. Do not invade. Observe. With caution. Engage only with respect. Ethan smiled faintly. He did not save the world. He simply reminded it who it was. The river flowed on. The house stood. Quiet. And humanity, for the first time, was no longer alone in the dark.